Hello, everybody. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, back with another video. Today, we're going to do a movie review, and we're going to go from our pal, the Walerian Borowczyk collection. And I had already, on this set, I already reviewed The Beast, and I did a review of his movie Immoral Tales. And today, we're going to talk about the movie Love Rites, right there. So, now this movie came out in 1988, written and directed by Walerian Borowczyk, and the movie stars Marina Piero and Matthew Carrier. Carrier. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I butcher the names. I really am. But yeah, this is an interesting movie. And first of all, if anybody wants to know, if somebody says, well, it's from the guy who directed Moral Tales, I need to know, is there nudity in it? Yes, there is nudity, but the difference between something like this and Immoral Tales is, in Immoral Tales, it doesn't take long to get to the nudity, whereas in Love Rites, this movie, yeah, you got to kind of earn it. You got to sit through it, to get to it. It takes a while, but this movie is. I'm kind of 50-50 on this movie. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it does have elements to it that irk me, and I'll get into that. But basically, we start off with our main character, Hugo, and he's kind of just lounging around his apartment and stuff like that, and he gets a call from this lady saying that they're gonna have these like gowns that basically they're kind of like sheer see-through like gowns and stuff, and he's interested in these gowns for some reason, but she says, like, yeah, for these gowns to work, the woman has to wear nothing underneath and all this other kind of stuff. And so he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, and all this stuff. So he goes and he's, hanging around, going out, walking around and stuff. Well, he gets on a subway train and he runs into Miriam, played by, what's her name again? Yeah, Marina Piero, who's, I mean, she's a very beautiful woman right there, you see. So he goes on to the subway and, he's riding the train and everything. And she's sitting basically by herself. She's got a vanity case in her lap and, she's very beautifully dressed and everything else. She got beautiful legs, pantyhose and things like that on. And she's just kind of sitting there minding her own business. She's putting on, she's doing up her face, putting makeup on, putting on lipstick and stuff like that, checking herself out in the mirror and stuff. Well, Matt, Hugo, he decides, he's going to plop right down next to her and stuff like that. And so, he's kind of just watching her make herself up. And she is, I mean, the whole time, I mean, she's aware that he's watching her and that he's checking her out and stuff like that. And so anyway, so, her stop comes up, she gets up, she's ready to go off the subway train and he's trying to follow her, but, people get between him and stuff. So he ends up, he finally gets off the train, but he's on one side of the platform. She's on the other side, and so they start talking and everything, and they start having this conversation. And one thing you're going to notice right away is that the dialogue in this movie is very, it's meant to be very kind of lyrical, very poetic in a way, and the way they speak in metaphors, they speak in just using like rich, words to describe things and everything else. Kind of almost takes you back to kind of like the old fashioned kind of filmmaking where, dialogue was kind of like more theatrical than, like in modern day movies, in modern day movies, usually like the screenwriter, their essence is to try to write dialogue that sounds natural, sounds normal, to kind of to capture the way people actually do talk and just regularly sound and stuff. And but in this movie, it's really trying to go for more of that old fashioned kind of, um, like I said, very kind of almost like a trying to strive for like a poetic kind of dialogue, But so I mean, the dialogue is interesting. And they're talking about the ways they describe things and stuff, and she tells them, like, well, you're trying to get after me, why don't you go and jump the, don't waste a ticket, just go jump over the turnstile and everything and come back, you can meet me here. So he does, he hauls ass and everything, and he goes and finally he catches up with her, and the two of them, they sit down on the stairs and everything else. And one thing that's kind of immediately you kind of find out that Hugo is he's a little bit of a misogynist, a little bit of a male chauvinist. I mean, it's like he instantly starts like putting his hands on her and stuff like that. And they continue talking and things, and she's describing, just talking and everything else. And he's saying he wants to kiss her and everything else. And she's like, okay, go ahead and kiss me. And she's talking about how like they're, kind of like life is like, like a play, or life is like a performance. And we're all trying to give our performances in this world and things like that. And trying to be like deep and philosophical and things like that. And so, Hugo is just basically saying, I want to kiss you. I want to jam my tongue down your throat, pretty much. And so she allows him to kiss her and everything else. And you instantly notice that, like, Hugo he's not gentle. You can see already he's going to be kind of a selfish lover. And, he's just kind of like really kissing her hard, and just kind of like his hands kind of just groping everywhere. He's like, his hands just kind of going up and down her thighs and stuff like that. And not very subtle, not very erotic at all, no tenderness, no, no, like really kind of like, use your touch to get her to get her involved and things like that. And, so anyway, so, one thing, so she's like, let's go, let's get out of here and stuff. And so they're out there walking and stuff, and they come across a church. And she says, every time I want to, I come down this way, I stop in here because I want to sit down and reflect and things like that. So they go inside and they're sitting there, and he's more like, rubbing her leg and stuff like that, putting his hand between her thighs and stuff like that. And she's talking and everything else. And one thing you're going to notice, and it carries on throughout the entire film, is that there is constantly always something that is kind of blocking the imagery. So that's going to be, so if you're sitting here like, I want to see the woman, I want to see this or that, it's all like, you're going to get to see her, but there's always something like obstructing. There's always something in the way, kind of blocking, what's going on and stuff. So you're going to have to deal with that. But, you know, they go in and they sit in this church and stuff, and she's talking more and more. And you get the feeling like with Hugo, he doesn't really give a shit what she's saying. He's not really paying much attention to her. He kind of, yeah, once in a while he'll ask her a question or something, but he's just more like, he just wants to hurry up and get it on. He just wants to get in her pants fast as possibly can and stuff. He's not really, and we do suspect that to some degree she knows this. She knows that he's just anxious to get laid, and he's not really like, listening to what she's saying, and what she's telling him is not sinking in and things like that. So, and she goes on to explain, while they're singing in this church, she goes on to explain that when she was a young girl, her two brothers, which she trusted, they took her for a walk one day. They're in the woods. Well, they tie her to a tree, and then they rip off her clothes, and they each take turns raping her. And she said that I begged and pleaded for them to stop, but they would not do it and everything else. And then as soon as they got done raping her, they turned around, they sold her into prostitution. Well, Hugo, rather than being sympathetic or anything like that, saying anything, you know, saying anything meaningful or anything, that could be encouraging in any way or anything like that. Rather than doing that, he's sitting there saying like, yeah, I like hearing about your bad life and everything else. I like hearing about, your troubles and stuff. And, yeah, let's hurry up and let's get it going and things like that. And finally, Miriam, she's like, let's not stay here much longer. They're going to be coming in, and stuff. And he asks her, well, what's the matter? You have a problem with, faithful people who come into church? She's like, not one at a time, but in a group. Yeah, because, you get them into a group, they get that mob mentality. It becomes dangerous. And she's like, I've dealt with the same thing with soldiers, and so we learn that Miriam here is, she's a prostitute, she's been sold into prostitution. And she said that, like she explains that she wants to be a better actress and things like that. And, but, she's okay with being in poverty and things like that. kind of in a way just saying she wants to be who she is. And Hugo, even though he's kind of like just kind of going along because, like he just wants to hurry up and get it on. So they leave, then they go to a park and they're sitting there talking. And there's a guy who's kind of wandering around. He's got a tattoo of a snake on his face and stuff. So he goes and he sits and talks with them and stuff, and asks him if he can get a cigarette, asks if he can get a light. Well, Hugo gives him the cigarette, Miriam gives him a light, and he's kind of talking and stuff, talking about how he got a prison, and Hugo's like, big fucking deal, man. We're all in prison of some kind or another and stuff. And so, they get up, they start walking, and he's all like, hey, I know a place you guys can go if you want to be intimate and stuff. And she's like, no, I already know of a place and stuff, and we'll be fine on our own and stuff. And so Hugo's about ready to start a fight with this guy, and everything else. You know, so, she pulls him away, let's go, and all this stuff, so they break it up. And so they're walking and everything else, and they're, heading toward the place. And she's, she mentions the name Sarah Sands. And she's all like, this is the woman. She's kind of like, this is the woman who kind of, I guess groomed me in a way, or, took care of me and everything else. And she's all like, I don't want you to know where we're going, and, kind of let me lead you there, kind of like pretend like you're blind and I'll lead you there and stuff. And so he does, and they get back, they get back to her place and stuff, and we see it's, very, there's like a lot of plants, kind of like little trees and things like that. And we realize that, there's live butterflies in the place and stuff. And as soon as she gets up to the door, she unlocks and she's like, let the orgy begin. And he's all, I mean, he's ready to go. I mean, he's just like a dog and all this stuff. So, so they start to disrobe, they start to get undressed and everything else. And like I said, you're going to see like, you do see, nudity and things like that. You do get to see, Miriam nude, and she looks great naked. But here's the problem: they got like these door frames are in the way and stuff like. There's always, like I said, there's like mirrors, or there's like like the glass things in the doors and all that kind of stuff. There's always something that's going to disrupt your view of the movie. You're always kind of put in kind of an outside looking in kind of situation. I don't know if that was the intention of the director or whatever, but like I said, I think the cinematography is definitely going to be hit and miss with a lot of people on this. Some people would probably look at it as more artful and intriguing, where a lot of people would be like, dude, you're fucking, you're blocking what I want to see. I want to see what the girl looks like, and everything else. Stop blocking my fucking view and stuff like that. And so, he gets her on the bed. He starts pulling down her underpants and things like that. And, there, you see like her vagina in close up, but like right above her vagina, she has the tattoo of a butterfly and everything. And a real butterfly gets on there. So it's all like, so it's like, when a woman sits there and says, like, yeah, I got a butterfly, just above my vag. In this movie, she means it literally. She's literally got, butterflies on her vagina. And he's just kind of, like petting the butterflies and kind of blowing them away and things like that. And so he asks her about her tattoo, and she mentions that when she met Sarah, that, she has this servant, and the servant is named Ping. And this guy Ping, he came into her service, and she rewards him with these women once in a while. And so he asks her, have you ever been with him once? And she's all like, I knew how to play the game with this guy. And, like the other girls, they didn't play along, so they would get, brutalized and stuff by him. And she's like, I never did, and everything, but he's the one who gave me the tattoo and stuff like that. And, he starts, Hugo starts getting into name calling, and he's calling her a whore. And, it's all like, wow, you talk really, I'm surprised how well you talk for a whore and all this other kind of stuff. And just kind of like, you're kind of really getting to where you don't like Hugo, because it's like, he just can't sit there and, I mean, I'm not saying he's got to, be like Mr. Super Nice Guy or anything like that, but I mean, for God's sake, I mean, at least, treat her like a human being. I mean, the woman's, as far as I know, she's not charging him, She's not charging him any money or anything like that. She's willing to spread her legs for him and stuff. It's all like, you think the least you could do is be a little bit fucking grateful for that. It's like, Jesus Christ. But no, he can't do that. He's got to call her names, call her a whore and all this other kind of stuff. And finally he, takes out his dick and everything else. And so, he's telling her like, yeah, look at my cock, look at how it's raised up for you and all this other kind of stuff. And she talks in a metaphor about how the smell of cock is repugnant, but the smell of vagina is sweet and everything else. And she's like, you notice, she's like, down there, I smell sweet. Where, she's all like, where most men, they smell repugnant, yours is a little more bearable and stuff. And so he tells her, you've teased me long enough and everything else. He's all like, now open your mouth. And so he pinches her nose close. So she opens her mouth and he sticks his dick in her mouth and, tells her to blow him, which she does and everything else. And then all of a sudden we get into narration. Never really, don't know where all of a sudden that came from, but now all of a sudden we get into narration during the sex scene. And it's the narration is told in a very kind of like literary, not poetic so much, but like a very literary way. It's almost like a writer describing in a book, like what is going on and everything else, kind of describing like what is going on in the thought processes between the two characters and stuff. And he's talking about like every once in a while, like, Hugo will break in, like, I'm about ready to, to burst and everything else, and you're going to swallow it, and all this stuff. And so, but he's going through like, at this point, her mouth did this, and at this point her tongue did this and that, and at this point, his testicles did this and all. It's what I'm saying. It's like, it's explained almost like you're reading a dirty novel. And so anyway, so she gets done giving him a blowjob and stuff, and he's saying about like how impressed he is at her skill, and that she did a great job of cleaning his prick with her mouth and all this other kind of stuff. And so he gets on and everything else. And then we get more of the narration where he's, the narrator is describing that, like, finally her vagina unyielded and everything else. And now he slipped it in up to the balls and everything. It just goes into very graphic detail about kind of what's going on and stuff. And so you got him on top and everything else, and they're going and everything else. And then finally they switch position, and he's got her, doggy style. And, while he's going, all of a sudden the phone rings. And so, she tells him, she's all like, do not move, do not make a sound, do not talk. If you value your life, you will keep your fucking mouth shut. You will not move. You will not do anything until I'm done on the phone. So she picks up the phone and everything, and she starts talking and everything, and she's just kind of like, more like she's being talked at, just keep hearing her go, we. And somebody's talking to her. We don't know who, but she just keeps, we, yeah, we, and all this stuff. And this goes on for about a minute or so. But anyway, though, she tells Hugo, keep your mouth shut. If you value your life, keep your mouth shut. Do not talk. Do not say anything and everything. Which, of course, Hugo does not go along with. He talks, and he starts moving, starts pumping her again and all this other kind of stuff. And she finally gets off the phone and everything, and she gets up and gets off of it, or she gets him off of her. And then she goes and she takes out these kind of like claws that she puts like one on each one of her fingers and everything. So she's basically kind of like almost like a female, kind of like Edward Scissorhands, Freddy Krueger kind of a thing. And then she attacks Hugo. She gets on him and she's just clawing at his chest, clawing at his face and everything else. And she's just talking about, you stupid man, and all this other kind of stuff. And it's all like, put your hands up. And, she's just clawing him. And the guy's screaming and everything else. And, she tells him, and she tells him finally, like, I'm going to let you go, which is more than you deserve. You cad, you douchebag, and all this other kind of stuff. And I told you not to talk, but you did. You ruined it, and all this other kind of stuff. And she goes on to say, like, life is like a play, and we're all actors, and you're not a good actor. You don't deserve to be on my stage, and get out of here. And he's, going on like, well, I never said I was an actor, let alone a bad one, and all this stuff. And she's all like, you better get out of here fast. And before I change my mind, you better consider yourself glad I let you live and everything else. And then, she's all like, you don't take your watch, you don't take your wallet and stuff like that. That's going to go to Ping. And she's all like, you better hurry up and get out of here. Otherwise, when Ping gets here, he's not just going to take your watch and your wallet and stuff. He's going to take your balls. And so he grabs his shirt, puts his pants on, and he starts down the stairs. And he's just going down the stairs. She continues berating him, and she's talking about like what a lousy, selfish lover he is, and just how he's just horrible and everything. And she regrets the time that they spent together and everything. I mean, just every horrible thing she could possibly say to him, she's saying. But at the same time, you're not really against her because, like I said, throughout the majority of the movie, Hugo comes off as he just comes off as such a prick. It just comes off like, just, I just want to hurry up and get my rocks off. I don't really give a shit what this woman's saying. I don't really care and all this stuff. So it's all like, you're not really feeling bad for this guy too much. And so he's walking down the street and he's kind of seeing like poor people and stuff. And you kind of get this, it is kind of throughout the movie that Hugo does kind of come off as somebody who considers himself like morally higher than a lot of other people, and a lot of people they see on the street or a lot of people they meet. Hugo kind of sees himself as like morally superior to a lot of people. And he definitely saw himself as morally superior to Miriam and stuff like that. So he's kind of realizing a little bit the error of his ways and stuff. Like he's stopping and he sees like a homeless man passed out and he sees a hat there. So he throws some change in the hat for him. So he's walking along. He sees a dress and a bag and laying on the ground. And there's a woman, naked woman. She gets out and so he goes and he puts the robe on her and she's like, thank you. And she explains that she's a prostitute. He's like, oh no, not another prostitute and everything. And she's like, yeah, she's all like, she basically says about the same story that Miriam did, that her brother sold her into prostitution when she was little and things like that. And she's talking about, you need to die to really die and things like that. And, all of a sudden, and there's people around, they're watching this whole thing go on. And, so they, this, this girl, she reaches in the bag, she pulls out like a dagger, like a knife. And she's talking about, we all have to die to really die and stuff. So she takes a knife and she sticks it into her chest. Hugo freaks out at this, seeing the woman kill herself. So he goes up to try to help her and stuff. He pulls the knife out. Well, cops are coming up and everything else. And in an odd turn of events, even though lots of people saw that this girl stabbed herself, that Hugo didn't do it, this homeless man that he gave change to, he saw that she stabbed herself and everything else. But for some reason, everybody said that Hugo was the one who stabbed her. That, she didn't do it to herself or anything like that. Everybody said that they are a witness and that they saw that Hugo is the one who stabbed her. And the movie ends, with Hugo being led away by the police, and they're talking about kill him, hang him and stuff. I guess ultimately the end goal of this movie is that Hugo is meant to die in one form or another. But, so anyway, yeah, that was pretty much Last Rites, and this came out from Cult Epics and stuff. I don't know if there might be a Blu-ray from Cult Epics, there might be a Blu-ray from some other company. I'm not sure. But what's interesting too is there's two cuts of the movie here. I think I watched the complete version, which is 97 minutes long, and there's a director's cut 87 minutes long. But so. Sorry, my throat's dry. But anyway, yeah, just it's a good movie, but I don't know. It's different but similar to, like Immoral Tales or The Beast. The musical score sounds very similar. A lot of some of the cinematography is definitely similar, but like I said, the cinematography could really split people down the middle of this movie. Some people will probably think, hey, it's beautifully photographed and there's reason behind it and everything else, but some people would be like, well, to me, the cinematography is too distracting. It doesn't put you in with the characters. There's always like a separation that, I don't care for. So, but overall, the movie is interesting. It's, if you're going into this hoping for kind of the same depravity that you got with immoral tales or even the beast. You're not really going to find that in this movie. This is a little bit of a different animal, but this movie is a very slow build. It takes a while to, I mean, if you're going in there hoping you're going to see nudity like in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, you're going to be disappointed. Basically, we don't even get to the nudity till about an hour in, because, like I said, there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of talking and things like that. So, but if you're going in there hoping you're going to see the kind of depravity that you saw with like immoral tales or something like that, you're hoping you're going to see like the things you saw in there. It's not going to happen. There's no, you know, the only time incest is brought up in this movie is when Miriam talks about in the church about her brothers raped her and then put her into, prostitution. There's none of the bestiality or anything like that. But anyway, though, it's not a terrible movie. But like I said, it's just, it's definitely a different kind of film from Walerian Borowczyk. But I would say, yeah, if you come across it and everything else, I mean, a curiosity, maybe, you might want to go ahead and check it out. Just, if you're a fan of the Beast, you're a fan of Immoral Tales, and you just want to check out more of the filmmaker's work, go ahead and try that. But yeah, I mean, good acting. Like I said, the dialogue is actually kind of interesting because it's written that very kind of poetic, lyrical kind of way. And but like I said, yeah, just it's get ready. There are things in this movie they're off-putting. Like I said before, the cinematography, the when the sex scene begins, all of a sudden you get narration that comes out of nowhere and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah, go ahead and if you're so inclined, you want to check it out, I say go ahead and give it a shot. You might like it. Anyway, that's going to end this video. We've gone on long enough. I think so. If anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please like and subscribe. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and we got more movies. We're going to have, I got one more to do from the Walerian Borowczyk collection, which is Got to, Island of Love, and I still got plenty more, so if anything, thank you very much. Take care. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.